Alright, buckle up because we're about to take a journey back in time, way back to when the ancient world was just a little bit more mysterious. Ever heard of the 7 wonders of the ancient world? Well, most of us have, but can you actually name all 7? Or do you remember what they looked like, or even better, what they represented? Spoiler alert, it's not as easy as it sounds. You know, the 7 wonders have a way of living in our collective imagination, often mentioned in books, movies, documentaries, and, of course, the random trivia questions that stump you at family gatherings. They've become almost mythical in how we talk about them. But did you know that most of these ancient wonders are, well, gone? Yep, many of them have been reduced to ruins or vanished completely. But their stories, their stories are alive and kicking. Let's start by asking the most obvious question. What exactly are the 7 wonders of the ancient world? These are the most remarkable man-made structures from the ancient Mediterranean and Near Eastern world, each one crafted to awe, inspire, and let's be real, impress everyone who laid eyes on them. They were like the ancient version of a bucket list, with each wonder representing something extraordinary that anyone who could afford to travel would absolutely have to see. Like the original top 7 must-see destinations for adventurers of their time. But why 7? Why not 5 or 10? Well, 7 was considered a sacred number by many ancient cultures. It symbolized perfection, completeness, and divinity. So, to make the list of 7, these structures had to be something really special. Think jaw-droppingly epic. These wonders were so famous that they managed to survive the ages, even though most of them no longer exist. It's kind of like how we remember the golden age of Hollywood stars, even though most of those films have long since faded into obscurity. Their legacy endures. Now, if you're ready to take a time machine to the ancient world, let's dive right into these wonders, one by one, and take a closer look at what made them so unforgettable. The Great Pyramid of Giza. First up, we have the Great Pyramid of Giza, the last of the original 7 wonders still standing today. And trust me, it's still a showstopper. Built around 4,500 years ago, this colossal structure was constructed as a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu. It's estimated that over 2 million stone blocks, each weighing several tons, were hauled into place to form the pyramid. Just think about that for a second. It's like stacking Lego blocks, but each one is heavier than your car. The pyramid was originally covered in shiny white limestone, making it sparkle under the Egyptian sun. Imagine the sight, this towering, gleaming structure visible for miles around, making it seem almost like a mystical object on the horizon. Back in the day, this pyramid was the tallest man-made structure in the world for over 3,800 years. That's longer than any skyscraper today could hope to hold that title. It's no wonder this wonder has stood the test of time and is still the first thing that pops into anyone's head when they think about the wonders of the ancient world. But let's be real, it's not just the size of the pyramid that blows your mind, it's how it was built. Despite decades of theories, we still don't know the full story of how the ancient Egyptians managed to pull this off. Ramps? Slaves? Aliens? Who knows? What we do know is that it's an engineering marvel that continues to make people scratch their heads, too. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Next, let's head over to Babylon, modern-day Iraq, and take a peek at the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Here's where things get a little mysterious because, well, we're not entirely sure they even existed. The Hanging Gardens were said to be a lush paradise built by King Nebuchadnezzar II for his homesick wife, Amidus of Media. Legend has it that she missed the green hills and mountains of her homeland, so the king decided to build her a garden suspended in the air. Now, imagine that for a second. Gardens hanging from terraces, full of lush plants, flowers, and trees defying gravity in a way that could make anyone's jaw drop. Historians and archaeologists have been debating the existence of the gardens for centuries. Some believe they were a real, though now lost, wonder of the world, while others think the story may be more myth than fact. There is no definitive archaeological evidence of the gardens, so it's possible they only existed in legend or were confused with another grand garden. But the story still remains one of the most beautiful tales of ancient engineering and love. 3. The Statue of Zeus at Olympia. Next, we're heading to ancient Greece to check out the Statue of Zeus at Olympia, created by the sculptor Phidias around 435 BCE. This massive statue of the king of the gods stood over 40 feet tall and was made of ivory and gold-plated bronze. Imagine walking into a temple and being greeted by the sheer immensity of Zeus, his hand raised, holding a statue of Nike, the goddess of victory. It must have been one of the most awe-inspiring sights in the ancient world. Zeus, sitting on his throne, watching over all who entered the temple. His eyes probably made people feel like they were under his divine gaze. Sadly, the statue was eventually destroyed by an earthquake, but its influence remained. The statue of Zeus represented not only the power of the gods but also the extraordinary skill of ancient Greek craftsmanship. It was a masterpiece of both art and religion. 4. The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus. Next, we're in ancient Turkey, at the site of the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, which was dedicated to the Greek goddess of the hunt, Artemis. This temple was so grand that it was considered one of the most beautiful and largest temples in the ancient world. It was rebuilt around 550 BCE, after being destroyed by a fire. But this wasn't just any temple, it was a temple that could easily put any modern cathedral to shame. What set the Temple of Artemis apart was not just its sheer size, but its decoration. It was filled with incredible sculptures and artwork, and its grandeur was unmatched. Unfortunately, like most of these wonders, it met an untimely end this time thanks to a man named Herostratus, who burned it down in an act of arson. But for a long time, this temple stood as a shining example of ancient engineering and artistic achievement. 5. The Mausoleum at Halicarnassus. Let's take a detour now to the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, modern-day Turkey, which was a tomb built for King Mausolus of Caria and his wife, Artemisia. Now, you might think, wait, why is a tomb on this list? Well, that's because the mausoleum wasn't just any tomb, it was a work of art. The structure stood over 130 feet tall and was adorned with beautiful sculptures and reliefs, some of which are still admired today. What made the mausoleum stand out wasn't just the size, but the fact that it combined elements of Greek, Egyptian, and Lycian architecture. It was one of the first of its kind, a blending of styles that set the stage for future monumental tombs, including the Taj Mahal. 6. The Colossus of Rhodes. Now, let's head over to the Mediterranean island of Rhodes, where we find the Colossus of Rhodes. Standing about 110 feet tall, this giant statue of the sun god Helios was built to celebrate Rhodes' victory over Cyprus. This thing was so huge, it was said to be so tall that ships could sail between its legs, though historians debate how true that really is. Imagine the power of a statue that size, watching over the harbor, towering over all who came into port. It must have been a sight to behold, symbolizing strength, pride, and triumph. Sadly, it was destroyed by an earthquake just 56 years after it was built. 7. The Lighthouse of Alexandria. Last but certainly not least, we arrive at the Lighthouse of Alexandria, which was built on the small island of Pharos, off the coast of Egypt. This lighthouse was over 300 feet tall, guiding sailors safely into the bustling port of Alexandria, one of the most important cities of the ancient world. It's said that the light from the top of the lighthouse could be seen from miles away, and at night, it acted like a beacon, guiding ships to safety. For centuries, this lighthouse stood as a symbol of maritime power, innovation, and engineering. But like most of these wonders, it was destroyed by earthquakes, leaving behind only the memory of what once was.